Make it stick. Just another day. Let's jump into Anke. Do. All right, no flashcards, dude. What did we read about then yesterday? Easier isn't better, I would assume. Is that all we read about? I'm not sure, but easier isn't better was the section we were probably reading about. We might have finished up the section extended learning, updating retrieval cues. Let's dig this out, I guess. This is what easier isn't better is all about. It's the more effort, right, here we go. The more effort it the retrieval. So the more effort, there's a direct relationship between effort and of retrieval and amount of learning. So the more effort you have to use to retrieve, the more learning will occur. And there's also the inverse, so that the less effort you have to use to retrieve, the less you'll learn. We've read about this Cal Polytechnic University or college, whatever one it is, in San Luis Obispo, California. We had a baseball team, and they agreed to undergo an experiment in which they would take on two more batting practices per week, 45 swings, 45 pitches, that is, in swings per session for 6 weeks. So 12 sessions, 45 swings per session. But however, the pitch styles were varied into two groups. The first group got 15 pitches of a fastball, followed by 15 pitches of a curveball, followed by 15 pitches of a changeup every time. And this group, as they start swinging more and more fastballs, maybe by a couple in, they're starting to see improvements, and they're getting better at the fastball, and they're getting gratified, and they're like, look at this, we're improving, we're getting better, right, guys? Let's go. And then this other group was interleaved. All of it was randomized. So the pitch, like the changeup and the fastball and the curveball, were all mixed up randomly every time. And so these people were like swinging and not seeing this short-term improvement right away. And they're getting frustrated. They're like, what? This isn't, wow, this sucks. We should have got the other group. We should have been in another group. But then after 6 weeks, when compared side by side, the group that had interleaved their pitches and swings showed significant improvement compared to the mass practice group in their swing abilities, which is very astounding, which probably no one in the baseball team would have expected. But this is demonstrating, again, things we've learned throughout this book many times. They keep tying back things they talked about in the past through spaced and interleaved and varied practice. Really, again, so what do we learn from this study? Mass practice leads to momentary strength, this short-term strength, but quick forgetting, whereas interleaved and spaced repetitions in practice lead to developing underlying habit strength through more retrievals and more effortful retrievals. Okay, and this chapter is desirable difficulties. So this is showing that what is a desirable difficulty? A desirable difficulty is something that impedes short-term growth but leads to more long-term growth and learning. And that's like long-term spaced repetitions, interleave practice, varied practice. These are forms of desirable difficulties. And so we see that exactly in this experiment. The desirable difficulties of interleaving the pitches and swings led to much more learning in the long term, though less short-term momentary strength. Okay. I think that's it for that section. Did we read anything from extended learning, updating retrieval cues yesterday? Maybe. Extended learning, updating retrieval cues. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Okay, that's good. I don't know where we would have started. Shoot, I don't know. I think we already did this. But anyway, the last thing in there was, just in case, was when we're relearning things, often we're not relearning things. We are actually just having to relocate the old memories that we had. The difference is that we lost the retrieval cues and the pathways, but we still have the long-term memory in there if it's something that we learned well in the past. Okay, that's fine. I don't think we probably read more than that. It's pretty rare for us to read more than a couple pages a day, so that would be more than 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 3 pages. I don't know. We'll call it good. We're gonna jump back into more reading right now. All right, guys, that's that section complete. Easier isn't better. One thing I pulled out in the last couple paragraphs is this strange paradox of like desirable difficulties, and part of it is the more forgetting that has occurred, the more effort is required to retrieve. The more effort into retrieval you'll put because you've forgotten more, the more you'll learn, and for like long-term permanent gains, learning gains. So like more forgetting leads to more learning as long as you're retrieving this. Pretty strange, right? Interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, it says what I always say. What is the section about at the beginning of the section? This section I just basically said more effort of retrieval, more learning. Less effort of retrieval, less learning. That's easier isn't better. I think a good little summary or recap. What is this section about? This section is how effort helps. That's the next section we're about to read. How effort helps. What is this section about? So this section is going to have a ton of little sections. So reconsolidating memory, creating memory, mental models. These are going to be like less than a page sections. Maybe around a page, some of them. So we'll just be doing section by section, I guess. I'll start with writing what is this section about, above reconsolidating memories, and reconsolidating memories. Let's get into this. All right, guys, reconsolidating memories. Again, these authors note of something. So they say more effort of retrieval leads to more learning, but then they have an asterisk again, basically something I probably try to ignore because I don't like how it sounds, but nevertheless they say as long as it's successful, as long as the retrieval is successful. And what does that mean? I think here's how I bridge mine, where I'm like, I don't really agree with that, and it's in the language of what is a successful retrieval. And I think anything you can pull out of memory related to the topic, even if it's not exactly correct, I think that's a successful retrieval because you're pulling something from long-term memory and bringing it back to short-term memory. So that's how I can make sense of it. So what is this section about? Basically, the act of retrieval is pulling things from long-term memory and reconstructing it into short-term memory. You're reconstructing the knowledge, and the act of this retrieval, this effortful retrieval, it leads to reconsolidation / like aka more consolidation. It makes the memory trace more robust, more easily retrieved, better cues, pathways, etc. So that's reconsolidating memories. Now we're going to jump into creating mental models. So what is this section about? All right. I'll be back after reading this section. All right, guys, just finished up the section creating mental models. I don't feel like it really said much about how effort leads to creating mental models, but that's that. It kind of was more of an introduction of mental models, and I'm assuming that effort through retrieval practice leads to development of mental models. Yeah, I can see that, but it didn't really mention that specifically. Anyway, we kind of got into what mental models are in this section, and they are basically, you can think of them like brain apps. They're like groups of related information. Expert performance is basically the development of the mental model or mental models around your skill over the course of thousands of hours of effortful retrieval, etc. Practice in different circumstances. Yeah, we got a formal definition of mental models as well. They're like groups of skills or knowledge that, like habits, can be adapted to different circumstances. Forms of deeply entrenched and highly efficient skills or knowledge structures that, like habits, can be adapted and applied in varied circumstances. So, forms of deeply entrenched skills or forms of deeply entrenched and highly efficient skills or knowledge structures that, like habits, can be used in varied circumstances, can be adapted and applied in varied circumstances. All right, that's the formal definition of the mental models they gave in this section. That's it for today. We are now on page 83, guys. That is 4 pages away from where I left off last time. We're finally going to pass this, maybe day 50 or day 51. So that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys later. See you.